In the 7th year after I became the madam of the Marquis mansion, my husband welcomed back his lustrous white moonlight, who had been married off to our enemy country. Only then did I come to know that she was his long-cherished, beloved wife. I fell severely ill, and upon awakening, my memory had regressed to a time before my marriage, selectively forgetting only Pei Ci. Unbeknownst to him, on the very night he attended to his newfound love, I set a grand fire ablaze around the mansion and boarded a ship heading south to Jiangnan. On my birthday feast, Pei Ci was half an hour late. When he finally emerged, there was a radiant girl by his side. She had raven hair, red lips, a beauty comparable to the bewitching, beautifully flushed begonia. "Brother Pei Ci, it's been 7 years since we last met, since you're back to celebrate Madam's birthday. Have you missed me?" The hall fell into an uproar. Only then did I learn she was An He, the princess who was married off to Bei Qiang for a political alliance, Mu Qinghuan, who just returned to the court this year after mourning her husband's death. She was Pei Ci's cousin in name. Huan wished to partake in the festivities, hence I brought her along. Pei Ci, with a smile, approached me. "Madam, my apologies. Upon hearing that the princess was returning to the court, I went to receive her and was late for your birthday celebration." Pei Ci apologized regretfully, while on the other side, Mu Qinghuan merrily drew him aside. "Brother Pei Ci, your house is so big and beautiful. Can I live here in the future?" As she spoke, she glanced menacingly at me. "I've heard that our sister-in-law is known for her virtue. Surely you won't disagree with Clearjoy's little wish, right?" Since the lady is virtuous, naturally there would be no objections. Before I even opened my mouth, Pei Ci had already smiled and agreed on my behalf. He did not even notice the dress I had specially made, but took the lady and sat down with her. At the banquet, Pei Ci brought me birthday gifts. "My lady, happy birthday. May we have this day every year and this morning every year." I glanced at the hairpin and jewelry brought from Beiqiang and clenched my fingertips lightly. "Thank you, Lord Hu." Those exaggerated bright colors were not what I liked. Mu Qinghuan pouted. "Cousin, you only prepared for sister-in-law. Don't I get any?" "Don't be upset, Huaner. Lord Hao has also prepared exactly the same set for you." Pei Ci lightly scratched her nose. "In the future, whatever the lady has, you will also have a share." He looked at the coy and giggling girl below him, his eyes burning. He looked at me just like the first time he saw me. I had been married to Pei Ci for 7 years. In these 7 years, I did not bear any children. Yet, he refused to take a concubine, insisting on having only me for life. We were regarded as the legendary loving couple in the capital city. Before my marriage, I was once a rebellious, tomboyish girl who loved horse racing and hunting in disguise as a man. Once at the racecourse, when assassins attacked him. Despite the danger, I rushed forward to shield him from the arrows, seriously injuring myself and causing myself unable to bear children ever again. When I awoke, I remember a tear falling on my eyelid. Pei Ci choked with emotion. "Ying Yue, your love is deep and profound. I will never let you down in this life." But 7 years after marriage, Pei Ci became increasingly distant, citing his official duties and frequent absences from home. However, seeing the way he looked at the princess, I realized he could look at someone else with such gentleness. One day at my birthday banquet, feigning illness, I left early and went back to my room to sleep. Pei Ci didn't come to my birthday banquet. Instead, he went with Princess Anhe to enjoy a night of boating. This was against the etiquette. Mu Qinghuan only pouted in displeasure for a bit, and Pei Ci readily agreed. The next day, Pei Ci went to the palace for an imperial court meeting. At the 1,000-carp pond in the back garden, I unexpectedly encountered Princess Anhe. It seemed as if she had been waiting for me, offering a shallow salute to me when I emerged. "Sending good wishes to the lady. I heard that you are ill, so I came to share some good news with you to lighten your mood." I indifferently furrowed my brows. "What good news?" Mu Qinghuan approached me with a cheerful smile. "I am carrying our cousin's child, and it's been 2 months." At that moment, I tried my best to contain myself, but I couldn't remain steady, wavering slightly. She showed me a letter that Pei Ci had written to her. The line, "Huaner, my wife," from the letter pierced me. It turned out their correspondences had never ceased over the past 7 years. Mu Qinghuan was very satisfied with my reaction, tilting her head innocently and blinking. The world always said that you and our cousin share an unparalleled love, but you can't even bear his child. It's already a significant favor that he allows you to keep this title. She laughed dismissively. How could you ever replace me in Pei Ci's heart? You are nothing more than an ornament that can't be displayed. I turned to look at Princess Enhe. What a coincidence. I also have something to tell the princess. Mu Qinghuan raised her eyebrows and drew close to me. In the next instant, I suddenly grabbed her hand. Under her frightened gaze, I propelled myself into the pool behind me. The surface of the pool, newly thawed in the spring, was bone-chillingly cold as I plunged in, yet I couldn't seem to feel the pain. Perhaps, the moment I discovered Pei Ci's betrayal, this heart had reached its coldest extremities. The instant I fell into the water, I saw Pei Ci hurriedly rushing to the backyard, jumping into the water to save me. These measures I could recreate. I just chose not to stoop so low. Because of the fall into the cold water, my old wound flared up again, inducing a fever. Pei Ci, seeing my pale face, his gaze flashed with a hint of pity. Huaner said it wasn't intentional. It's because you slipped and couldn't keep your balance. The doctor advises you to rest well and not to overthink. Seeing that I was unwilling to acknowledge him, Pei Ci pleaded in a deep voice. You are the mistress of the Marquis' mansion. You should be virtuous, kind, and magnanimous. I began coughing violently. To what extent should I be magnanimous? Until others shatter my boundaries and divide the Marquis's heart in two. He massaged his forehead, worn out. Ying Yue, you're the wife I married in proper ceremony. This fact will never change. What more are you not satisfied with? That night, he stayed for only a brief moment before being called away by Mu Qinghuan, who had been startled awake by a nightmare. Before leaving, he ordered me to rest and recuperate peacefully, prohibiting anyone from visiting. I fell into a heavy sleep and had a dream. In that dream, I relived the 7 passionate years of my love for Pei Ci. Everyone in the capital knew that my love for Pei Ci was bone deep. The year I romantically set my heart on this young lord, I often visited the horse racing field merely to encounter him. Without hesitation, I saved him, which resulted in a lifelong illness. I have never regretted it. Pei Ci had a coughing disease that would relapse when the winds of spring and autumn blew strongly. Throughout the years of our marriage, I concocted almond and lily soup in the spring and pear stew with fritillaria in the fall. I took great care of him throughout all 4 seasons, and in the end, I nurtured him back to health. Upon waking in the middle of the night, I felt a surge of blood rush upwards, and I vomited a mouthful of blood. A maid caught me as she sobbed. Madam is so ill, and yet my lord is still with that woman. I will go notify the lord immediately. I shook my head and instructed Xiao Tao to fetch a medicine box for me. Several years ago, I saved a divine doctor from the hands of bandits, who later bestowed upon me a pill, Forget Woe pill. The doctor said that this pill could cure all illnesses, but also erase some memories. Amidst heartfelt agony, I swallowed the Forget Woe pill in silence. Pei Ci, I have decided to forget you. When I woke again, my vision was crystal clear. Because I'd forgotten so many things, I was somewhat at a loss. Only after asking Xiao Tao extensively while freshening up did I manage to understand. Upon hearing that I'd woken up, Pei Ci came to see me. He seemed noticeably surprised. I cast my eyes down at my outfit, a pristine shade of blue. In the early morning, Xiao Tao had the same expression as she told me that I always wore some dark-colored clothes just to conform to the lady of the Marquis's taste. But I've always preferred simple and elegant colors. Are you awake? I heard from the maid that you were vomiting blood and in a faint for an entire day and night. Perhaps my strength has come back after breakfast. I responded clearly. Your lordship, I'm much better now. He paused, seemingly perceiving something different in me. Ying Yue, the princess did not mean to push you. I've reprimanded her. Perhaps you don't know yet, but Huan. I cut him off. She's pregnant with your child, isn't she? I already know. She's been boasting about it throughout the mansion. It's hard not to know. He suddenly looked flustered as he studied my face, trying to find signs of anger or distress. But there were none. My gaze was tranquil. Xiao Tao quietly explained by my side. Master, Our lady suffered from a high fever and lost a lot of memories when she woke up. She's forgotten many things, especially you, completely forgotten." He chuckled, clearly in disbelief. "Jiang Ying Yue, what game are you playing this time? What kind of illness could be so bizarre, specifically causing her to forget this marquise? Is she pretending to be mysterious as a means to catch my attention intentionally?" I felt displeased inwardly. Who would want to play games with him? The man had a disgusting habit of patronization, choosing to speak or saying nothing at all. Pei Ci steeled himself and said, "I know, I have betrayed our promise." I raised my head in confusion. "What promise?" "It's me who let you down. This marquis had promised you that I would not take another wife. If you feel sad, just express it. Whether you want to cry or scold is up to you." I waved my hands in a very generous gesture. "That is, it's not a problem at all. After all, I don't remember." Pei Ci's face stiffened, and he suddenly grabbed me. I distinctly felt his hand trembling. "Why aren't you sad? If you're distressed, tell this marquise I would compensate you well." I was stunned for a moment and suddenly realized what he was referring to. I shook off his hand and took out a long-sealed betrothal letter. "Right, Marquise, we still have this marriage contract letter, don't we? It states here, you once swore never to take a concubine. Should you break this pledge, you owe me a letter of divorce and a compensation of 100 taels of gold, so I may step aside for your new lady." I kindly advised, "The county princess is heavily pregnant. You, as a dignified marquise, could not allow her to bear the shame of being an unwed mother. A slutty embarrassment, right? That way, you wouldn't be reneging on your promises. At worst, you can consider it divorcing your wife and remarrying." Pei Ci didn't utter a single word, merely staring intensely into my eyes, silent for a long while before opening his mouth. "So what now?" Thinking I had thought everything through very meticulously, my voice remained so calm that it didn't oscillate the slightest. "So let's divorce." Just as I was about to object but hesitated, intending to repeat myself, Pei Ci pulled me towards him. Without caring about anything else, he held me tight and hoarsely said, "Don't call me Marquise, call me Ci." His warm embrace left me dazed for a moment. I could even hear the thud of his heartbeat. I was slightly irritated, for I was eager to head back home. This rectangular Marquise mansion, how can it compare to the spacious horse ranch outside the general's manor? "I'm tired. It's already late, Marquise. Please return." I forcefully pushed him away. "Ying Yue," Pei Ci called my name softly as he left the room. "We tied the knot with love and trust. This was the vow we made on our wedding night. I will never break it. Do not mention divorce ever again." I doubted my own eyes, as there was indeed a hint of tears in Pei Ci's eyes. But none of that matters anymore. The next afternoon, the mother-in-law arrived. At the family feast, Mu Qinghuan kept a low profile, sitting at the lower end of the table. As soon as they met, she kowtowed, bowing deeply to her mother-in-law. As the crown grandchild of the Pei family, I greet the old lady. The mother-in-law was moved to help her up, gripping her hand tightly. "Truly a wonderful person. You are a good child who understands etiquette. No wonder my son values you." I stood on the sidelines, like a stranger interrupting their mother-daughter-in-law warmth. Mu Qinghuan winced as her hand was gripped, unable to suppress a pain. Her maid suddenly started to sob lowly. "We don't know how Our Lady has offended the madam, and madam doesn't seem to be able to tolerate her." I was perplexed until the maid raised Mu Qinghuan's fair hand, which was evidently burnt red. "This morning, when Our Lady was serving tea to the madam, she accidentally burnt her, and the madam punished her." The surrounding commotion quieted down, and everyone turned their eyes towards me. Mu Qinghuan silently wept. "I am nameless and insignificant. It is only right for the madam to punish me." The mother-in-law glanced at her wound, pointed coldly at me. "Do you even realize your wrongs? Kneel down now!" I straightened my back. If the daughter-in-law did no wrong, why should she kneel? The old lady's chest heaved in anger. "Even the words of the mother-in-law you don't listen to. Then I'll point out your faults clearly. Jealous by nature, you left my son alone after a marriage of 7 years. That is your first fault. 7 years without a child, that is the second. Your heart is vicious enough to even hurt the good concubine who is carrying my grandchild, and that's your third fault." Mu Qinghuan saw the mother-in-law enraged, hurriedly came forward to steady her. As a princess, Qinghuan can step down, pass on the family to Shixi, and still respect you everywhere. If you are so spicy, it would be better to let her be the lady of the Marquis mansion. Someone else joined in. Just kneel if the mother-in-law asks you to. The elders are old, their bodies are naturally not good. It doesn't matter to listen to some lectures. My hands and feet went numb, and I instantly became the target of everyone's arrows, until a clear voice rang out. The old lady is drunk. Who will help her back to her room to rest? Pei Ci stood in front of me, being all things to all people, dealing with the situation. It's just the wind sending out too many catkins. The Marquis's wife has allergies to catkin, causing a misunderstanding and laughter amongst you all. I naturally returned to my room to rest. As I washed off my makeup in front of the bronze mirror, I noticed the unfamiliar maid attending to me and couldn't help but feel surprised. Who are you? Where's Little Peach? The maid then told me that Pei Ci thought Little Peach wasn't clever enough and decided to replace her. The newly arrived maid only had one sentence for me. The noble lord truly loves you madly, my lady. I didn't understand. If he had truly loved me so much in the past, why would my heart hurt so much now? Under my relentless questioning, the maid, trembling with fear, revealed the truth. On learning that Pei Ci had actually sold Little Peach into hard labor, I was furious. Little Peach is a maid brought from my mother's house. Who does he think he is, to lay a hand on my people? In front of the maid, I smashed a teacup. The shards scattered right as Pei Ci walked in from outside. His eyebrows lowered slightly. Ying Yue, you were always this brave and tough, even before we were married. In the midst of my anger, I picked up a soft whip that I'd found while tidying up. The next moment, without hesitation, I lashed it at him, immediately tearing a gap in his brocade robe. Who gave you the permission to touch my people? Ying Yue, calm down a bit. Little Peach was stirring up trouble behind your back, obscuring your judgment. She had to be punished. Ignoring his explanations, I relentlessly lashed at him over and over, not even sparing his handsome face. Soon, Pei Ci was covered in spots of blood. He did not dodge, the corners of his lips curiously curling up into a smile. See, you really do care about me. You're just acting out because of the prefecture master, doing all these just to provoke me. He grabbed the hand that I was wielding the whip with, his gaze seemingly ablaze. It's okay, Ying Yue. Once you've cooled down, we can return to how we were before. I swear, in this lifetime, it's only you and the prefecture master, no one else. We can still live our lives happily as a family, okay? I hung my head in silence, my shoulders trembling. He thought I was crying. But unexpectedly, my laughter gradually grew louder, to the point of shedding tears. Pei Ci, while I may have forgotten the affection I once had for you, I can't help but feel today your pretentious face is truly hypocritical and ugly. Just the thought of having loved someone like you makes me feel nauseating. Pei Ci's face turned somber, looking thoroughly displeased. He came from a prestigious background. No one has ever insulted him like this. To let the child in Huaner's womb acknowledge his ancestors and return to the clan has always been Mother's only wish, I have already decided. Tomorrow, I will officially welcome the princess as my concubine. Given your madness, from now on, the authority of the housekeeper will be handed over to the princess to compensate her for becoming a concubine. I did not cry or fuss, coolly watching him dismissively walk away. The day when the housekeeper's power was taken away was also the wedding night of Pei Ci and Mu Qinghuan. My mother-in-law delivered a decree saying I had become arrogant with favor, punishing me to kneel in the ancestral hall for repentance and copy the scriptures of the Buddhist goddess hundreds of times. But they all didn't know, on the night that Pei Ci paid his homage, everyone was lively in the front hall. I had torn the engagement document with my own hands, set a big fire burning the ancestral hall, and quietly left from the back door. Amid the blazes, I covered my mouth and nose and quickly escaped through the unguarded back door. With each step and gate passed, more brilliant moonlight leaked through the clouds. I couldn't help but follow the light, my steps becoming more buoyant. Until I walked out of the Marquis' manor, I exhaled deeply. I am finally free. The life of a confined wife had almost erased my connection with the mundane world. Luckily, it was only 7 years, not 10 or 20 years. The grass is abundant, the orioles flutter in the landscape, the moonlight is white, the wind is light, and the pear blossoms. When I left, I took nothing from the Marquise's house, only picked a pear blossom from the backyard. In the goodbye letter I left for Pei Ci, I told him that I had asked the doctor, and the princess was already more than 3 months pregnant. The county princess proclaimed it to be 2 months, letting him weigh the consequences himself. Afterward, I rushed to the estate where they sold slaves. Using my dowry, I managed to redeem Xiao Tao right before the daybreak and before they could put her to work. With tears in her eyes blurred, Xiao Tao said, "Miss, I knew you would come to save me." With the first glimmers of dawn appearing, I gently held Xiao Tao's face and smiled. "Xiao Tao, do you want to go home with me?" "To our home, Yunzhou." Before I was married off, I spent my childhood and adolescence in Yunzhou. It was only after my father was appointed as a fierce riding general that we moved to the capital. Looking at me with bewilderment, she asked, "But the capital is filled with Marquis spies? Can we actually get back?" Grasping her hand resolutely, I responded, "We will definitely make it back." In reality, I never lost my memory, always consciously aware of everything. The forget-me-not pill indeed cured my illness, but it didn't make me lose my painful memories. Perhaps the divine doctor intended for me to heal physically, then mentally through the process. However, I did not reveal this. All I wanted was to leave Pei Ci. What truly let me give up was the decision to no longer love. The journey was dangerous. Xiao Tao and I, 2 weak girls, if we wanted to be safe, the waterway was the only option. The canal gang's longboat specialized in carrying officials' wives and young ladies for visits, only set sail every 3 days. Fortunately, I spent some extra silver and found a small cargo ship willing to take us. When getting on the boat, though I locked the doors and windows, the light from the torches held by the officers on the shore still passed through the paper windows, casting a glow in the cabin. The boatman rowed while saying, "The Pei Mansion is looking for someone." I don't know what happened in the capital that made the Marquis bypass the Ministry of Justice, mobilize the government, seal the city gate, and send people to search the entire city. "Do not be afraid, ma'am. We've already departed. Traveling by water is always easier than overland." I figured that Pei Ci must have run into a big case. Yet he is cool and cautious, upright and wise, keeping everything under control, like watching a fire from the opposite shore. The model of an aristocratic young master. It should be this way, indeed. At this moment, a pear blossom was placed diagonally on the side of my temple, bathing in the morning light, indescribably elegant and beautiful. Dawn had arrived, and a light drizzle began falling from the sky. Feeling a slight shake of the ship, I finally could not resist opening the wooden window to view the misty capital in the rain. 10 years ago, I was excited when I first arrived. Now, my heart is as still as water. But as I was about to close the wooden window, I suddenly saw a stranger rushing in the rain, seemingly looking for someone. In such heavy rain, the man was probably soaked to the skin. I did not know who he was looking for, but regardless, it was already too late. When I woke up leisurely, the boat had already reached Wu River. The bright moon hung high over the river in a clear sky full of stars. A melodious tune flowed from a female singer. "In this life, we may not meet, moving like the stars above. Under tonight's light, when will we enjoy this candle's glow again?" That day, when he left the back courtyard, Pei Ci felt a heaviness in his chest. The burning pain from the whip lashes continued unabating. He had just felt relief, thinking his wife's anger was just a show, that she would be fine once she'd vented. She still cared about him, but he didn't expect that this time, Jiang Ying Yue would be so ruthless, cold in her heart and eyes, devoid of any feelings for him. Had she really forgotten him now? A sharp pain assaulted Pei Ci's heart, leaving him distracted throughout the rest of the wedding procession. He confessed, ever since he was young, his heart had housed another, the Princess of Anning. He was the elegant moon in his heart, his childhood sweetheart. She was forced to be married off, and he couldn't forget her for 7 years. The day when Mu Qinghuan was married off, he chased after her on his white horse for tens of miles, ultimately falling into a sickness of the heart. Pei Ci had sworn to stay single for the rest of his life, preserving his purity for his moon. Until, at a polo match, he met a young girl who made his heart leap. He saw through Jiang Ying Yue's male disguise at once, yet she displayed an heroic and majestic demeanor on the polo field, surpassing many men. He, who was once indifferent to grand gatherings like that for scions of powerful families, ran to the racing track time and again just to see her once more. Unexpectedly, that polo match was infiltrated by assassins. With no chance to avoid, a cold arrow shot straight towards him. She, however, rushed forward and took the arrow for him, getting hit straight in the abdomen. The tenderest part of a woman is arguably there. She was gravely injured, nearly losing her life from severe bleeding that night. Pei Ci stayed by her side the entire night. When he heard she would never be able to bear children, his eyes instantly grew red. "Ying Yue, your love has touched me deeply, and I will not fail you in this life. You can marry me with peace of mind," he said. As the exceptionally distinguished young lord, he was unwilling to admit that he had fallen for her even before she saved his life. He thought, even if she can't have children, it didn't matter. He could still take care of her for a lifetime. Suddenly, 7 years passed by, his mother was getting sicker and longed for a grandchild. When he heard of the death of the elder Khan from North Qiang, and the princess was about to return to the court, his heart, full of regret for years, began to throb again. He begged the emperor for a chance to go on an expedition, traveling day and night just to see her at the border. Despite the passing 7 years, they had kept in touch through letters. The flames of their young friendship were still being passed on at this moment. Later on, the princess became pregnant. He was thrilled and decided to take her back to the capital. He completely forgot to consider his wife's feelings. The princess also worriedly once asked, "Would sister-in-law accept me?" He firmly shook his head. "No, she's hopelessly in love with me. She will definitely accept you. It will just take time." Pei Ci had never expected that his lady would completely forget him after an intense fever. At this moment, uncertainty dwelled in his heart. His hands trembled as he lifted her veil. "Brother Pei Ci, from now on, Huan is your wife." Mu Qinghuan snuggles into his arm. Candlelight flickered, illuminating the beautiful woman, as delicate as a flower and precious as jade. He finally had the woman he could not grasp in his youth. Yet why did he feel a pang of loss, as if suddenly emptied? "The ceremonies have been lengthy today. You must be tired. Let's rest early." Pei Ci remained dressed as he slept, having a restless night's sleep. Until the wee hours of the morning, he couldn't resist going to check on his wife, who was punished by his mother to copy scriptures. When Pei Ci arrived at the ancestral hall in the backyard, there was already a roaring fire inside. A buzzing sound filled his ears, and the young servant was yelling out, "Water leak! The water is leaking. It's no good. The lady is still inside." At last, Pei Ci panicked. He roared at the young servant to promptly put out the fire while dousing himself with a bucket full of water. He tried to rush into the ancestral hall, but to his dismay, no matter how much he tried, the door just wouldn't budge. He could only watch helplessly as the flames engulfed the house and the collapsing beams and walls fell heavily to the ground. His heart shattered with the sound of the falling debris. The fire was finally extinguished in the early morning. Disregarding the still hot charred wood, he madly rummaged for his wife's body. His hands were scraped and bloody. Even when the sky began to lighten, he found no trace of his wife's remains. No matter what the method used, it was impossible for a raging fire to leave no trace. He thought. Fortunately, he didn't find her. Indeed, his wife must have just run away and not committed suicide by fire. On the spot, Pei Ci ordered the city gates to be locked down and sent people throughout the city to track her down. When Jiang Ying Yue left, she didn't take anything with her. Exhausted, he slowly sat down in the room, only to find a letter she left on the bed. The words on it pierced him. "Farewell, my dear, like the flowing brook," she said. "I'm tired of being the lady of this marquis's house." "Yes, Penny, I have asked the doctor. The princess is pregnant for over 3 months. Since you two are in love, it's inappropriate for an outsider like me to intervene." As the servants reported, "I have been cautious and reserved in this marquis's house for 7 years, which is not what I intended. Maybe it was for your sake in the past. Since you disagree with the divorce, then I will leave. From now on, I sever all ties with you. We shall never meet again, in life or death." Suddenly, Penny's mind exploded. 3 months. But he had met the princess in the Northern Realm just 2 months ago. That child must be the last descendant of the former Khan. Yet Mu Qinghuan didn't want to continue living in the harsh conditions of the north. To return to the Central Plains rightfully, she had hidden this news and voluntarily offered herself to Penny, all in order to give her unborn child a status. At this moment, her juvenile, unreachable moonlight shattered. When he summoned the doctor and confirmed her 3-month pregnancy, Mu Qinghuan collapsed to the ground. "Cousin, listen to my explanation. Although the child is not yours, my feelings for you are real. Every man's worst nightmare is nothing but having the green clouds pressed down on their head." Pei Ci suddenly shoved her away, his eyes flaming with rage. "If it weren't for your flirtatious behavior, how could my wife have abandoned me?" Mu Qinghuan cried till she was heartbroken. She had a miscarriage at the spot, bleeding heavily through the night. Pei Ci didn't look at her again. He locked himself in the study, getting thoroughly drunk. On the bookshelf, he came across a portrait of his wife from before their marriage. In the portrait, the woman wore high boots and horse-riding trousers, her outfit embroidered with hawk totems. She was radiant like the sun, her slanted eyebrows extending towards her temples, a sight that instantly stole his heart. They spent 7 years in deep affection and intimacy. Even he himself wasn't clear whether he was in love with the shadow of his wife, or if he had unconsciously fallen for her. He opened up the secret room and tore up all the portraits of Mu Qinghuan, as if by doing so he could erase the proof of his wife's unfaithfulness. After doing all this, he fell to his knees in daze. Many times he woke up in the middle of the night, realizing he's alone, self-mocking tears, finally understanding the pain of irrevocable loss. He decided to spare no expense to bring his wife back. Day after day, night after night. I've been staying in Yunzhou for 3 years now. In these 3 years, the tea house I set up has become increasingly popular, much loved by the noble ladies of the capital. In order to attract more high-end clients, I've had some handsome young lads brought from the western regions. A dozen or so of these young men are lined up in front of me, each one of them as pretty as a picture. With my eyes half closed, cracking sunflower seeds, I curiously ask, "What talents do you all possess?" Simultaneously, they lift their robes to reveal their strong and muscular abdomens, strong and vibrant, brimming with life. I couldn't help but stand up and nod in satisfaction. "Aunt Hong, the goods you've chosen this time are indeed excellent." Just as I was about to inspect them, a servant boy came running in, out of breath. "Boss, there's a man outside claiming to challenge us," he gasped. "He says he's more formidable than these lads and wants to have a contest, hoping you would have a look at him." I glanced at the man from afar, seeing him covering up his face with a mask, making him all the more intriguing. Suddenly intrigued, I said, "All right, let them set up a ring, and whoever has the greatest martial ability and catches my eye stays." Several young men, posing as guards, were wrestling half-naked on stage, putting on a show in front of me. Their waists contracting, their eyes seemed filled with fire. I couldn't help but applaud. Good. The man who had come to challenge was in great shape, towering over all with strength and height. The outcome was unquestionable. The mysterious masked man had claimed the victory. Just as I was proudly announcing the result of the battle, he removed his mask. The face that appeared was Pei Ci's. During our eye contact, one pair was full of shock, while the other was full of sympathy. "My lady, you made me work so hard to find you." I certainly didn't expect him to be able to find me here. He had even degraded himself to such extent. Dressed up as a guard, blending in with the lowliest servants, all to win my favor. "Pei Ci," I sighed, "I've already told you, I don't want to see you again. Why must you do this?" His eyes burning, his voice deep, he said, "Ying Yue, I've made up my mind. Since you don't remember our love, I will start again with you. You like to see abs. I'll show you mine, so you don't have to look at others." I responded with a faint laugh. "What good is a great body if it's not for my eyes only?" Pei said anxiously, I've already sent the county lord back to her home. From now on, there's only you as the mistress in the Marquis mansion. Come back with me. He discarded the woman who was with him for 7 years so easily. He really is heartless. Perhaps he loves no one. The one he truly loves is himself. I gazed firmly at him. For my sake, abandon your position in the Marquis mansion, resign from your office, and come to Yunzhou alone. Would you do that? Pei Ci looked down and no longer spoke. I chuckled lightly. By now, his reactions no longer surprise me. You might hold me in your heart, but in your eyes, power, status, the foundation of the Pei household, and continuing the lineage are far more important than I am. In fact, I remember everything, and I can't let go of the pain you inflicted upon me. But I'm simply too tired, Pei Ci. In these years as the lady of the Marquis mansion, I had to be cautious every day and lost myself in the process. I indeed loved you, but I love freedom even more. Pei Ci widened his eyes, not knowing whether to be sad or happy. The always noble and dignified man appeared somewhat flustered at this moment. Moonshadow, I know there are many misunderstandings between us. I have already discussed with my mother. She will not give you hard times anymore. You are my wife, and it has nothing to do with the fortune of the Pei family. You can come with me. But I cut him off, leaning close, each word falling into his ear. I've never forgotten that when I accidentally stumbled into your study room's secret chamber, the instant I saw stack after stack of images of Huaner, my wife, I knew that the Pei Ci I loved was already dead. That night, he went to join Mu Qinghuan for a boat ride. I accidentally stumbled into the secret chamber in his study. Inside, I found picture upon picture that was unbearable to look at, all fire avoidance maps. They all depicted the same woman. Her posture was graceful, full of various eccentricities. Pei Ci would play with the images every day. So fond of them, he refused to put them down. Even the edges started to show brown wear marks. There were also stacks and stacks of their thick correspondences. In his letters, Pei Ci wrote, "My wife is but a mere title. In my heart, only Huaner is my true wife." In her reply, Mu Qinghuan informed him that the old Khan of Beiqiang was already in his old age. She had been married to the neighboring country for 7 years, but was still pure for him. Pei Ci, on the other hand, claimed that she was like the vine lily, blooming wild and free. He didn't want her freedom to be confined within the walls of his household. They were soulmates who couldn't be together. In all those 7 years, they never missed to exchange letters. At that moment, I knew that the title of the Madam of the Marquis mansion had never belonged to me. Pei Ci, too, was never mine. If you two are soulmates, then what am I to you? Tell me, what am I? Pei Ci completely froze, clenching his fist tightly, as beads of sweat formed and dripped off him. After a long silence, he muttered, "I thought you were the one dwelling on the past. Turns out I was the one unable to see the truth." His gaze was filled with sadness and regret, and he asked softly, "I just want to ask one thing. Do you still love me?" In the calmest manner, I responded, "Pei Ci, you have a promising future now, and there are countless women in the world who would flock to your side, ready to offer you as much love as you desire. However, my love is simply too precious. You no longer deserve to have it." Pei Ci got his answer, and finally left in a daze, his figure disappearing into the vast misty rain. After that, Pei Ci never sought me out again. In the spring of the following year, news came from the capital that Sir Pei had been demoted by the emperor and banished. Pei Ci couldn't withstand the hardships of the journey and died en route to his new post. It was said that he had succumbed to a long-term depressive illness, his heart finally giving out. I listened in silence for a long time. Toward the end of spring, the pear tree outside the courtyard had finished blooming and the petals were falling. It was a clear sign of decay, but I felt no regret. Back in the capital, no matter how carefully I tended to the pear tree in Pei Ci's mansion, it would always wilt for 3 seasons after the flowers fell. It was simply out of its time, unlike the pear trees in Yunzhou. Although the flowers had fallen this spring, by the end of summer, the pear fruits were sweet and abundant. The cycle would repeat, with the courtyard being adorned by the snowy blooms of pear flowers come next year. The end.